Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Authentic Podcast with Justin Doulard. And thank you for tuning in to another episode. And now, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Another genuine conversation with a unique individual. It's time!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Authentic Podcast. It is a beautiful Saturday evening, and I have another good quality guest, the 100-Day King, the last Bushman, Mr. Roland Welker. Roland, thank you for joining me, sir.
You got it, brother. You got the 100-Day Man right here.
Okay, we talked a little bit before. Don't know where we kind of start at. So, for those listening, Roland Welker won the TV show Alone, featured on the History Channel, which is how I found him. Roland, we've already covered it, but, not a huge TV guy, don't watch a lot of it, but one of my friends said, hey, this guy, I know this guy personally, and, he won this TV show, and I was like, okay, what is it? So Alone is where you get dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and you survive for a certain amount of days, period of days, with little to no materials that you selected. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you were the first person ever to go 100 days on the TV show and win this thing.
Yes, that's correct. The longest time prior to season 7 was 87 days, and the History Channel wanted to spur somebody on to 100 days, and they came up with the $1 Million Challenge. I took it.
And so
did you watch? So you've watched the show at this point.
I watched your show. I watched your.
Well, you got
yes.
You got to go back a little bit. I'm running into people. It's like, yeah, we seen yours and didn't watch any of the other ones. You got to go back and watch some of the other seasons just to fully appreciate what I did at Rock House.
Well, I do want to say I do appreciate what you did, but I will go watch them back it for you. I mean, you are the reason I watched the show at all. So, okay, so first tell people a little bit about you, because I know about you, but people listening may not. And then I want to dive in on how you got into the show.
Yeah, so I got an extensive history in this sort of thing. We can't cover it all, but I'll touch on it as best I can, of course. It's starting at 8 years old in central Pennsylvania. I began this journey in the outdoors, and it's just not your typical like to go fishing once in a while and shoot a deer once a year type thing. I embraced this stuff wholeheartedly as a very young boy. Set my first trap at 8, and I would get up with my flashlight and go check my little line as a child in some pretty big woods in central Pennsylvania. I was the kid that would get off the bus and grab his backpack already packed up, on Friday evening, and go camping in a rainstorm all weekend alone by myself because, nobody else was into it. From there, all through high school and stuff, got my driver's license and kind of, I always loved the hunting things and still the camping and exploring. But I hit my party years, which were kind of a rough era there. As I do everything I do as hard as I can. And that I did as hard as I could, too. I sort of set out to be the best. And I was one of them, for sure. And it led me down some pretty dark trails. So I was coming out the end of a pretty nasty time. Actually, I just lost my driver's license for 5 years and was picking them back up. And some other stuff was going on too, and they opened the Dalton Highway, which is the haul road to Prudhoe Bay in Alaska. I always had the Alaska dream and started to lose it through the party years, and then I decided I'm going there. I'm going to go do that. And I remember reading in the Fort Sports Afield, they just opened the Dalton Highway clear to the Arctic Ocean. They always stopped it at Wiseman before. I bought an old pickup truck, loaded it up with all my stuff. I mean, all my gear, and headed for Alaska. Went out to Bellingham, Washington, got on the Alaska Inside Passage, Alaska Marine Highway, the ferry system, dumped me off in Haines, drove back into Canada, back into Alaska, went to Fairbanks. I was thinking north, went Fairbanks, and then eventually up on into Prudhoe Bay. I picked up a job at the Yukon River Bridge Truck Crossing and spent the summer there, fixing truck tires and what have you, running with the Indians on the Yukon. That was a pretty wild time. And from there, went on back down to Palmer, where I had a job with Woods Outfit, packing meat for the fall. And they flew me to Western Alaska. That's how I found Western Alaska. I went in through Woods Outfitting. I'll never forget it. And then I picked up the whole hunting, guiding. Like, there's people making their living doing this, and I knowed I was never leaving after that. So the party years damn near squashed the vision, but I pulled myself up out of the muck and headed north.
When did you start doing hunting and fishing guiding? It sounds like you started as kind of a side gig, and then, or did you start full time and go deep in?
I any guiding's a seasonal thing, even if you are in, because the seasons, you got to follow them around the country, and I do some of that at this point. But as soon as I did that first fall, I guided that was my packing year. The next year I was eligible for assistant guide, and from there on I haven't missed the Alaska hunting season yet. I'm registered guide now. I'm right in there.
And what year was this that you started?
It was probably 96. I remember I was 24 whenever I did my packing year. I'd have been 25 first year as assistant guide, about 25 years ago.
And so you were living in Pennsylvania, you packed up and moved to Alaska, and you've never lived anywhere ever since.
Yeah, I travel a lot now. Right now, I kind of tell people when we get into this subject, I'm pretty damn comfortable anywhere in North America, anywhere from Alaska clear down into northern Mexico. North America is my home.
Yeah, I mean, we got connected from mutual friends, Ty and Tara Harmon, who I got us hooked up, and you were friends with Tara's uncle in Claremore, Oklahoma. So, I mean, it sounds like you're in Oklahoma a lot more than I expected you to be. So it sounds like you do travel a lot, and you got a lot of, like I said, North America is your home. So
North America is my home, but I do got a soft spot for Oklahoma. I love them Okies.
Yeah, man, most Okies are pretty good people. So, how often are you in Oklahoma? It sounds like you're there, quite a bit.
Yeah, I hit Oklahoma at least once every couple years.
Are you outdoors quite a bit while you're there, or are you mainly just catching up with friends?
Pick up an Oklahoma hunting license and do the Okie hunts.
And so how did you meet Tara's uncle, one of your good buddies from Oklahoma?
Chris Weaver, probably one of my best friends of all time. He was actually he's a hell of a hunter in his own right, and skinner and trapper and everything. I mean, he even actually, he was like me, he couldn't get enough of it, and that's what led him up there. Wayne Woods, big time outfitter in Alaska, had a big year coming up, and he hired 3 packers just to help pack meat and take care of camps, and Chris was one of them. So we have that bond. We were both young men experiencing Western Alaska for the first time. I stayed. Chris moved back to Oklahoma.
Okay, so we're going to dive into, kind of why you're here and what you do. You're obviously a professional guide. You've been doing it forever. It's your livelihood. You love what you do. For people, people are going to tune in. They're going to know now you won the show alone, which is where they take you and dump you in the middle of nowhere to survive, and you were the first person to do it for 100 days.
Yeah.
Talk us through how were you a fan of the show before you got on? How did this go?
I wouldn't say I was a fan of the show, but I knowed it was out there. I am so remote, and I do watch some TV when I get a chance, but generally I got no TV, and when I do have access to a TV, I mostly don't know what I'm looking for, or I put Lonesome Dove in a DVD player. So I never had watched the show, but my clients show up every year telling me about this really badass, cool show called Alone on the History Channel. Some of these guys watch every season, and they're telling me how I could go do that, should go do that. And I know it would take somebody with some computer skills to get me in there, because I got zero computer skills. I got to have Tex helping me do this right now, what we're doing. She's standing right there. And so anyway, they all come say the same thing. You could kill this, and I told them all the same thing back. Get me on and I will kill it. Yeah, we'll get you in there. And none of them got me in there. And it's a quite lengthy process. That's nobody's fault. It was very involved getting on here. So finally, my sister, Megan Francis, she lives in Maui, and she had a couple days on the tail end of a vacation. She calls me up. I'm on the road, but I was just kind of had some downtime. I was at this other guy's house, and I remember doing the application over the telephone over her. Oh, I guess I had my phone. I had a flip phone. I didn't even have a good phone yet. I did a flip phone, but I had to have my sister, on the other end with her computer.
What year was this?
It's very involved getting in there. Very involved.
What year did you start the application process? Or what?
When we filmed, so I must have started the application process. I believe January of 19 is when I submitted my first application.
And when were you in the woods?
When did we go in?
When did you started your application January of 19? When did you start the show? When did you get dropped off from?
We went in late September.
Okay. So you
you might as well say February, March, April, May, June. I had 7 months at least just from the time I submitted my application till we got launched.
How do you prove to these guys that you're qualified and you're not just going to get out there in a week and you're not some post?
Yeah, that's you have. They ain't just taking some yo-ho, and putting them out there. They got a lot of money invested in us. They got to make sure you're gonna stay in there and give it your all to get the show. And I can't touch on that real hard. There is definitely a formula they're using to pick their people. You do have to show your shit for sure. But I'm not gonna elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's fine. When you applied for it, did you know that it would be the first time where they try to get someone to go 100 days?
No, that was sprung on us later. No.
And originally
together, it's always been last man standing for $500,000. That was always that's season 1 through 6, and for some reason we were getting ready to go do that, and they came up with the new challenge.
Did you flinch?
I'll never forget where I was when I was first told that. I thought, I'm a millionaire.
Yeah. So how does that feel? Do you feel like a millionaire now? How does that work?
Oh man, I don't need no money. All I need is a Bowie knife and a hunk of wire. I
don't. So you're out there for 100 days in rural Canada, and not only do you have to survive and cook your own food, find your own food, your shelter, but you've actually got to film this show yourself. There's nobody else out there, not even one film crew, correct?
That is absolutely correct, and that's a part of it that's just so hard for everybody to understand. So when I tell this to people, and Matt, whether you're a welder or a truck driver or working in a sawmill or I don't know, whatever you do for money, now imagine going and doing that all day long, hard as you can if you want to win, with a camera in your hand. We're doing this one-handed because you got a camera in the other hand, and then there's some other cameras floating around too, and it just, man, getting an angle. You're always repositioned. Before you can go to work, you got to set your cameras up, and then you start your project or whatever you're doing, and one will crap out on you, and you got to, it's non-stop camera work. Yeah, if you don't hate the camera before you go in, you'll hate it when you get out.
Would you prefer have had someone with you behind you filming the whole time, or did you kind of appreciate really doing it by yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question and a tough question. The camera work is hard, but at the same time, I know it's making everybody else's life hard too, So you had to be a good man to pull it all off. I like the way it is. I like the self-filming. I can see where if you was getting filmed, it would be a hell of a lot easier, but then you're not alone. See, half of this is being alone. If you had a camera crew there, you wouldn't be alone. Isolation's a hard gig for a lot of people.
Yeah, because like I mentioned, I don't watch a lot of TV, but even some of those outdoor wilderness shows, it's not the same thing. But like for example, Naked and Afraid, they've got a film crew with them, or they're being filmed.
Yes, you're not alone. And so this is an authentic show, right down. No food and all that. Everything is legit, and you are alone. So if there was a camera crew there, it wouldn't be legit. So the whole thing with doing your own filming is what this is about, actually.
Yeah.
With your survival deal too.
Sure. So walk us down how you killed that muskox one-handed with the camera in your hand.
Oh, that you can't duplicate that. I predict season 7's never going to be beat just because I know what it took to build Rock House and that muskox. I mean, I don't see how that can be duplicated. It was a long chase. And of course, you saw I had arrows and had to go in for the stab. So it was such a long, fast chase that I didn't get all the shots that I wanted to chasing it. I got some, and I did very well, actually, but there was a lot there I didn't get. And that's just kind of part of that hunt. I couldn't get the cameras out. So when it came time to go in for the kill, thank God I got them in the right places. And because I didn't, everything was happening so quick. I didn't go back and look at my footage. I just went into gutting and everything because I had to get clear back to Rock House for the night, and there was just so much work to do. You just slap your cameras down as best you could and hope you got it. And I didn't really know if I got it until later. And of course, you saw I got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you had to catch that.
I don't think it can be redone. I don't. Sorry.
No, I mean, I respect your opinion and your thoughts on that because.
But I'm talking to everybody else too. I mean, the next guy, there's somebody out there trying to do it now. There's season 8's coming up.
How long?
I'm predicting season 7's gonna be the new benchmark for a long time. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean that. Like I said, they coined you that nickname, the 100-Day King. Man, that's not easy to get. So.
Yeah.
What happens hypothetically if two people make it 100 days?
Then we was going to have to split it. That would have been a bad gig. I wasn't into that. I wasn't wishing nobody no good luck. I wasn't putting no good vibes out there.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I don't remember her name, but the girl, she made it, I want to say 91 days or 89 days or.
That was Callie, and I believe it was 89. I'd have to watch it again to be sure. But yeah, I mean, she was so strong and awesome. She was chasing me hard. I give her all the, credit in the world, but at the same time, I wasn't rooting nobody on,
Yeah,
she one champ. I kind of say thank God for frostbite.
Yeah, she did.
She'd have been there without it.
What'd you say?
She'd have been there without it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did you, going back on it, I'm sure, did you have any type of illnesses or injuries that you kind of hid or tucked away so you could kind of stick it out there? Because you seem pretty healthy, but I know that there's a lot of stuff that didn't make the show. We only got 10 to 11 hours of footage as opposed to, 100 days worth.
Oh, right. I mean, you can't even imagine the amount of footage they're dealing with. But no, I don't get sick. I don't get hurt. I don't get depressed. That don't happen to me. I'm like the most healthiest person on earth.
What do you do to stay fit? Do you do anything special, or do you just stay outdoors and eat healthy?
Well, I stay outdoors a whole hell of a lot. I'm probably living in outdoor shelter, tent, cabin type situation, anywhere from 180 to 220 days a year. So, a lot of wild game, and I don't lean toward a lot of sugars and stuff unless I'm working ultra hard, meaning in hunting season. But yeah, man, I stay on it. I don't, you don't.
What was your
healthy without some kind of routine?
Yeah, I listened to several of your other podcasts you did, and I know you said you kind of take for granted being out there, just grabbing a bag of chips or a cheeseburger or something.
Yeah, right. When you do come in, all that comfort food's just, oh, it's out of this world.
Yeah, I mean it's you're just used, well, at least a lot of the average people are just used to. I could leave right now, go get a cheeseburger in 3.5 minutes, and I could do that almost any time of night. 24-hour drive-throughs. I was just going to ask you, what was the first thing you ate when you got back home?
I mean, once you get back to base camp, they bring you back slow. The first couple meals are pretty weak, but when I actually got to a restaurant and could order up a civilized meal and eat like a human, with the restaurant, I had some form of steak that was on the menu and a couple beers, probably some fries in there.
Yeah,
Mainly
when
the steak. I'm a meat eater. There's a couple shows out there that are called Meat Eater or something,
Mhm.
and then they mix their meat with a bunch of noodles or something. That ain't meat
Right.
eating.
Yeah, you just like a good old piece of
I,
steak.
I can make them. I can make people cry for mercy. I've had people live with me that just said no more red meat. We're done with it.
Have
When
you
I'm eating at somebody's house and there's a bunch of other crap on the table, I'll I'll put some potatoes and green beans on my plate just to be polite. But I'm pretty much stabbing for the steak, stuff like that.
have you heard of the people that do the meat only diet for they'll do it for an extended period of time, 30 days, 60 days,
Yeah,
90
that's
days.
called the caveman diet or something, right?
Carnivore diet.
Yeah, or the Neolithic or the Palean something. I know guys, and that will work for some people, I believe. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm on. Kind of what I'm on.
What do you I mean so what do you typically eat in a day? Just a lot of red meat and maybe a vegetable every now and then or potatoes?
I eat a hell of a bunch of red meat, and I'll go for some dairy when I'm out, in the world. Of course, there's not much dairy when you're back in the woods. I'll carry butter back in the woods, but yeah, vegetables, man, I don't know. I can even think of when I ate the last vegetable. If somebody puts out a veggie tray, I'll pick some carrots or celery or something.
My brother
Like I said, if I'm at somebody's house and they put green beans in with the meal, I'll take a spoonful of green beans just to be polite. I don't eat a whole lot of vegetable.
my brother's going to appreciate the hell out of this. You sound just like him. He's a meat guy, maybe some potatoes, but not a big veggie and a fruit
Yeah,
guy.
I don't need a lot of it for sure.
And he's pretty lean and healthy too, so
Everybody's different. You guys, whatever's working for you, that works for you.
on on the show, they had estimates of how many calories you guys had burned in a day. Were they tracking that, or was that just an estimate based off your weight and your workload?
They came in and weighed us here and there, so you never know when. It wasn't like you didn't know when they were coming to weigh you, but every once in a while they'd show up and take your weight. Like in season 6, you seen them weigh people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in season 7, they kind of we had so much footage. I guess they didn't use that, and but we still got weighed quite a bit. So they might have been taking our weights and figuring in the hours or something. There could have been a formula to that. I really don't know.
Was there anything that you got on camera that didn't make the show cut that you really wish would have been there? It's just hard for me to imagine consolidating because when I first watched it, it was 10 or 11 episodes, I can't remember, but it's an hour and a half standard TV show, and then I'm thinking we get to like episode 8 or 9 and we're on 60. I'm like, there's still 40 days and there's only 3 more
Yeah,
episodes. How do you like you said, how do you shrink out so much material?
there was a whole lot of material. Absolutely, yeah. They crammed 40 days into the last show or two, and there was a lot that didn't get shown. And it's just, I kind of think it's always going to be that way.
I
Probably
feel I feel like you got the best of both worlds. Like you got to be, on TV in front of millions of people, kind of show your talents, but you didn't really, for the most part, it sounds like you didn't have to deal with the showbiz bullshit.
Oh, you were out there all, yeah, you were out there all alone with just your cameras. You were doing it your way. It it's self-filmed. Yeah, I mean, I did everything just however I
Yeah,
felt the best way to do it to win. It was absolutely authentic, and But yeah, there's a boatload of footage of all 10 of us that didn't get showed. So when I first got to see it, I'm like, oh yeah, they didn't show this or that, but everybody else had stuff they didn't show too. But I'm almost glad some of that didn't get showed. Still got some moves that
you kind of
put out there.
Some well kept secrets.
Mm.
So did you have? Okay, so you're doing a lot of your daily things. What did you do if you had any to little free time? I mean, you had no books, you had no music.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do on any little downtime you had?
Yeah. Well, the downtime came later when it was all, your shelter's done, your wood's cut, and you're hitting that real dark, cold time of the north, December. And there was a lot of long nights in Rock House with,
minus
you can
30
only sharpen
degrees.
your knife and saw so many times. And you're right, no book. Oh my God, no book was a toughie because I'm a reader.
Yep.
It would have been a great time to kill War and Peace again, or read the Bible clear back through. So I just did a lot of mental searching back in my mind, dredging up a few old childhood memories that was on, I would do mental memory games trying to go back because as we get older, we start losing it, and I pulled up some stuff and I'm like, holy cow, a few more years, I might have forgot that altogether. And now I can't remember them again, but yeah, it's tough not having a book or some music.
I know in there you talked a lot about reflecting on your relationship with your mom, and that kind of pushed you through towards the end, kind of gave you some clarity and kind of kept you strong. So I always thought that was real.
Yeah. Man, actually, it's so I started traveling at 17, so I ain't been home much ever since I hit what you might want to call manhood, and so I didn't see mother a lot, and ironically, then she perished while I was preparing for the show. Everybody knows that, and that was my little theme, and production and the History Channel captured that really good. Think a lot about that, and I did want to dedicate it to my mother because I didn't have a real. I mean, I derive a lot of my strong personality from her, but at the same time, I wasn't around her a whole lot, so I felt closer to my mom at Rock House than I did anywhere. I know that's bizarre, but
tell me something that you do offline off of this. Like I'll always know you as this huge outdoor enthusiast and a guide and a pro. You've been doing it since you were a little boy and you won the show. But what are some of the hobbies you have outside of this? Something that might throw me for a curveball. There's got to be one other thing.
Man, I don't know. Reading. I mean, I spend a lot of time reading. A hobby that ain't woods oriented, man, I don't know. I go logging a lot, but that's real woodsy. Chopping down trees is a big part of, commercial logging, not just playing around with firewood. I buy timber and cut it down, sell it, but that's woodsy. A hobby that ain't woodsy. Man,
you told me earlier that you said watching MMA and UFC kind of gets you pumped up. Do you watch that quite a bit?
What's that?
UFC.
Oh, UFC looks like the best fun in the world. I'd love to try it. I could get into that.
How often do you watch it?
Every chance I get, if we're swinging into a bar and it's on, or if nobody has it on and the TV's dead, or, sometimes I watch it in Oklahoma. I watch it every chance I get. It just looks like something you could focus on.
Oh yeah. So you said you would get in the cage if the amount of money was right, or you know.
I'll jump in the cage for the right dough. You bet.
Have you ever done any type of training?
I keep myself in awesome shape, and as far as training for a UFC fight, I have not been, but if it was gonna happen, I would. If I had what's a typical training length?
So, I think for someone who knows what they're doing, a typical training camp, they say, is anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. And that's for an experienced guy. Now, if you have no idea going dry, I have no idea. But
I'd want 6 months.
6 months. And
I don't know, but that's what I would try to get.
Yeah. How much do you weigh?
I range anywhere from 190 to 200.
Okay.
I can get down to 180.
How much weight did you lose out in Canada, out on the show?
I lost a lot. I was clear down 160 at one point.
Did you feel okay, or by day 100?
I was good. I didn't even know I lost that much. Didn't even realize it.
How did you keep track of your days? You itched them on the tree, that's right, with the knife, correct?
Yeah, I made calendar tree. There was one great big spruce there that looked like I could get clear around. I cut number 1 way down at the bottom because I knew I was staying for 100, unless I got so sick or so weak or whatever, or so starved. I mean, I did find lots of food, but you don't know if you're going to find all that food. But I mean, I was determined to make it happen no matter what. So I started my notch way down low and kind of had the whole tree planned out. And the 80s took me clear around to where I had come up to. And so the 90s and up to 100, I had to come up above that too. And you see on the show all the marks. I call that calendar tree. Every day I'd knock off a day with my axe. I did that every day, filmed it every day too. So there toward the end, I was pretty sure I was at day 100 because I don't see how I could have knocked off 2, you know what I mean, in a day.
Yep.
I know damn well I was there for everyone that was on there.
I mean, when, like
100 days is a long time, my man, when you're knocking them off one by one.
Man, I can't even fathom how someone could do it. It's like you said, it's really not something you can put into words until you've done it. I mean, what you were at point in times, minus 30 degrees at night?
I believe 42 below we had 2 of them in a row. Now, I didn't know that at the time. We had no thermometer or nothing. And this is one little part of my footage they didn't use. We had 2 weeks of what I termed hyper cold, and you'll see me say hyper cold there a time or two. Now, there was 2 weeks of that. And I was calling it on my camera minus 30s, every day, every night for 2 weeks. And then the last 2 days of that, it got a little colder and I could sense it, because we had no thermometer. And I called, I twice on camera each day. I said, I think we just hit minus 40. And, I said that right into the screen. Well, they didn't use that, and that's fine. But later I went back, when I came out, I could do my own research. And I went back and I had somebody do it. I don't do it. Checked the weather records, and there was some 42 below there. I believe they show minus 40 on the show down in the lower part of the screen, and maybe that's what it was. That's cold, man. That's cold. I call minus 30 cold, and minus 40 is getting a little worse. You can tell when it's that cold if you've been in it. Things change at minus 35. It just wood acts different and water acts different. The way your ice breaks and your wood shatters, shit changes at minus 35.
Yeah, I have experienced minus 37, but it was nothing like you did. I mean, I was running from my car to work to the store, anytime.
Yeah.
I've seen about minus 37. I got a picture of it on my phone, but it's just absolutely brutal. I can't even fathom sleeping in that or walking in that or having nobody to talk to while enduring that, man.
Yeah. Even the sounds are different at that temp. The crunch.
Yeah, the first time
you can hear in the show my footsteps a couple times. The crunch, the deep crunch. That's when it's cold, cold, cold.
Oh yeah, I remember walking out in it for the first time, and it kind of hurt my lungs to breathe the first minute or two. It's like when you have you put like 5 pieces of gum in your mouth and chug ice water and just breathe in that air, and it's miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have? I mean, because I knew you won the show before I started watching it, because you're the reason I watched it. But with an
you watched it later.
Yeah, with an unbiased opinion, I saw from day one, it looked like, man, it looked like he could win it. He seems confident. He never once phased it. Did you ever have a day where you were almost tapped out, or were you in 100%? Not once did you flinch.
I didn't know.
You didn't look like it
going in, and you had to keep adjusting it to your circumstances. But I mean, it's the nearest thing to what you're getting at, I can say, is there's a term called drop shock. And when you first get dropped off and that helicopter's flying away, that's when drop shock sets in. And I think everybody would experience that to some extent. Probably me less so than others, because I got all my Alaska deep, I've been dropped lots of times. Of course, with, an outfit and grub and things, but getting dropped with your sack of clothes and your 10 items, just like we all had, it was all the same, except, you could switch it up, but we all had to pick off the same list. What was really drop shock for me was when the helicopter flew away and I'm standing there. This is it, we're launched, it's going down. Like, man, I made all that big heavy talk. Now we're gonna bring it home, and that was my drop shock. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah, I can't say I blame you, man. There were some of the guys on there that, for retrospect, for people listening, only made it 2 weeks. I think 10 days, and there was a guy who was already off. Of course, you didn't know that at the time.
No, you don't know none of that. Yeah.
And how long did you have to keep it a secret after you won?
Yeah, once you come out, you can't say a thing,
For how long?
Oh, it was till after the last episode aired.
Yeah, okay.
Because, somebody get a hold of that and go with it, and this company just spent millions putting this show together. They can't entrust that information with one person, anybody. Everybody's under heavy non-disclosure. You can't be out there yapping your mouth about none of that.
Yeah, I had some friends and family have some questions too to pop in, and that kind of touched on that. I was going to ask, you got 10 items. If you could list those for the people who are going to listen, and then if you had to leave one of your 10 items behind, if you shrunk it down to 9, what would that have been? What would you have left behind?
10 is like, holy shit. 10 ain't enough, really.
No.
There's almost ain't one you can give up. There almost ain't one you could give up. Might have dropped my...
Was there anything you regretted bringing?
My Leatherman if I had to. I don't know. 10 is like the threshold. You've got to have them 10.
Looking back, was there anything you wish you would have swapped out instead, or did you pick the perfect 10 items for you?
For me, I had the perfect list for me. Yep.
Prior to going out and doing this, what's the longest you've spent in the woods, solo style like this, or with a couple of people? But what's the longest you've been?
I got some 3-monthers under my belt already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of already done a mini series of this.
The alone, yeah. The alone stuff wasn't my issue, and I knowed I had the shelter, and I don't get sick and I don't get hurt. It's food. Food is the tough one, But you have seen people in the past seasons, just go when they still had food yet, just because they're tired of being alone. But
yeah,
that ain't, alone does not bother me. I'd like to have a book or two, but
yeah, that's why you reference that muskox as the $1 million ox. When you got that.
As soon as I killed him, that was the $1 million muskox, because food was done. Now I did have to get that thing back to Rock House and secure. I could have lost some of that, but.
Yeah, you did an excellent job with that. One more question I had: if you had to choose, pick one, a knife or an axe.
Excellence is what I strive for.
If you, would you leave behind the knife or the axe?
If I had to choose between knife and axe?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give this one away, and anybody that's already doing this type of thing, whether you're at my level or whatever level you're at, the axe is number one in the woodsman's lure. Feasibly you can do everything with the axe if you had to. Axe is always number one on the list.
Okay, axe is number one. What's number two?
Number two is always going to be fire. For me, there was the guy in season 6. I forget his name, but man, he went in without ferro rod and did the bow drill the whole time, and that was a ballsy move, and he made it clear to number 3. So fire was probably his excellence, you know. I have made bow drill fire, friction fire for sure, but man, it's just such a hard thing. I wouldn't go in there without my fire. Ferro rod's number 2 for me.
Is there anything that is like a really weird item, maybe even not for, someone doing a challenge, but just going out on an adventure, something weird that ends up being pretty helpful, maybe you wouldn't think of, kind of unorthodox?
In every remote situation you go to, you'll always bump into something or turn something you already have into something else. Every time there's always an unorthodox item turns up, whether you made it, whether you found it, or whether you took something you already had and turned it into something else, you know. And it's just the situation, the circumstances kind of dictate all that. Plus your ability to use your head.
So the show's over and you're back to normal life. What's next for you, Roland? What's the next 2 to 3 years look like for you? I know life has changed a little bit, even though the money didn't necessarily matter and you did it for fun. And, I know life is different. So tell me what's next for you.
Well, I wanted that title. I wanted that.
The 100-Day King
title. Yes, sir. I did, for my mother, for myself, but to represent all the old timers and the old timer ways that are under attack these days. You know, I wanted to bring some of that back to life, and I felt I did that somewhat. The pioneers that made this great nation, I wanted to represent them. And I leaned on God Almighty and Jesus Christ's name a lot through all that. And I like to touch on this on every podcast and every chance I get to talk to people. There was some big, heavy prayers to God Almighty and Jesus Christ's name going down at Rock House. So that's always part of that's always part of my success formula right there. What's next for me is some kind of crazy challenge, whatever it is. I'm just waiting for the next chance to smack the next home run.
How many seasons, if ever, do you think there'll be another 100-Day King? You're the original. Will there ever be another one?
I don't think so.
Has the show moved to?
It was just that hard. I think 100's going to be here for a long time.
Is the show moved now? Is it all to 100, or was that a one-time deal?
I have no idea. They
Okay.
don't, you know what I mean? That this year's they ain't giving that information out to nobody. Yeah, I don't know any more than anybody else from here on.
I know you said to go back and watch some of the old seasons. If you had recommendations on which seasons were some good ones to watch or your favorites, which would those be?
Well, when I say I want you to go back and watch some other seasons to fully understand how high I set the benchmark, you got to watch some of the other seasons. The show's evolving, it's getting stronger every year.
Sure.
And I'm real excited to see how 8 comes off, and then 9 and 10. And then there's the talk of the championship playoffs. I don't know if that's happening, but there's chatter about it. No, I don't know what network and production's doing. No clue. But I know there's chatter in the computer world, the fan base wants to see a championship. And
you're going to go to the Super Bowl of Survival and win that thing?
Yeah, I'm going to win another $1 million.
I feel like, based on the show, the only way you were coming out of there is if, like, you got attacked by a bear or they pulled you out. So I think you could, for sure.
You got to pull me out. You're going to pull me out, no doubt about it. I'll say it. I said it before and I'll say it again. $1 million. You can't tap out when there's $1 million on the line. No way. I can't wait for the next one, And they're all I'm the man to beat.
Yeah, man.
Tell them all the same thing. We'll see you chumps on the mountain.
I like to try and ask all my guests lately a general question of the same. If you had a couple pump up songs to get you going in the morning when you're working out or you're outside, or what are some of those songs? That should be current or old time. So
yeah, I got old ones I like. I like Waylon Jennings a lot, and he had a really hard hitting song. One of his first ones called Lonesome, Ornery, and Mean. Pull it up and listen to it. It's really good. And then when I really want to get a good workout or get a lot of work done, I listen to Kid Rock.
Oh, nice. That's some Kid Rock, man. That's good stuff.
So hot.
What's your favorite Kid Rock song?
So hot.
So Hot? Okay. That's good stuff. Well, man, I've really enjoyed our time talking. We've been going for about our time limit now. You got anything else for me? Otherwise, we can wrap it up and let you get going. I know you got a lot of these. You're a celebrity now, man. As much as you don't want to be, I think you are.
Yeah. I like talking to you. You're a good interviewer, Justin. But yeah, I'm gonna save some material for somebody else. You're gonna drain me. Yeah, I'm good, buddy. That was a good podcast.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate it. And I wanted to say thank you to Ty and Tara for getting me connected to you, and your relationship with them and your buddy down in Oklahoma. And
The Weavers in Oklahoma, God love y'all, and just Oklahoma in general. I love Oklahoma, and I love Oklahoma people.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You seem like a great guy as well. So, everybody, if you want to go back and watch it, you got Mr. Roland Welker, the 100-Day King.
And you got to go to my website.
Yeah, drop your website. What is that? I meant to ask you that too.
Yeah. We're trying to get everybody to go to www.rolandwelker.com, and then there's Instagram and Twitter and Jitter and I don't know what all, but I'm out there.
Yeah, once we're off record, I'll get those from you. I always post the links on my podcast for you to do, but I'll do the website, and then we'll get your Instagram or another link for you, which we can talk about those later. But yeah, guys, go find him, RolandWelker.com. Season 7 Alone winner on History Channel, the 100-Day King, the Last Bushman on Instagram. That's all I got, man. I really appreciate it, and I think the people are going to love this one.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
Yes, sir.